Have you ever imagined life in the Matrix? Or dreamed of exploring Ready Player One's Oasis? These virtual realities are no longer just Hollywood dreams. Even as the era of cheap money, sky-high equities, and digital land grabs fades into distant memory, the Metaverse awaits us. One that promises to transform us the way the internet once did. That same internet that some people once thought was doomed to fail. As developers, brands, and even consumers fast embrace the potential of the Metaverse, one can't help but wonder, how will editors and VFX artists fit into this new universe? Will they? In a 3D game engine world, will editors even be needed? VFX artist, entrepreneur, and YouTube star Ignace Aleya has an answer to that. With 500,000 subscribers and 3 booming businesses for video makers, Ignace is helping editors and post artists around the world prepare for our futures in virtual and augmented realities. From developing custom VR experiences to building entire courses in VR, Ignace is opening the door for post artists ready to step into the metaverse. With possibilities as vast as the cloud itself, today I asked Ignace, what does the metaverse mean for the future of editing, and how can we be ready for it? Hey guys, welcome back to the Famous Editors Podcast. Today's guest is visual effects artist Ignace Aleya, very popular YouTuber with almost 500,000 subscribers. So beyond creating incredible YouTube tutorials on editing and visual effects, he is the co-founder of Creator Galaxy, an online asset library, and Illusion Grid, an advanced visual effects studio, and Epic VFX Academy, which has taught people around the world how to become high-level VFX artists. So he has quite a story to tell. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did.
I started all these things together with my business partner in crime, Arno Milis, and he's actually been a friend of mine for a very long time, a little bit over 15 years now. We actually met in school when we were like 12 years old, something like that. We weren't the best friends right away, but we did play a game that we were pretty fanatic with. And if you look around, like everyone was playing that game called RuneScape back in the time, but we were pretty serious with it. We wanted to be the best and have the best gear, the best levels. And you already saw some kind of entrepreneurship in us within the game. We also built a clan and have all these people surrounded around us and like bringing everyone together essentially. So if you look back at it, it was just a lot of fun. But if you look at it now, you already see some sort of entrepreneurship forming there. Anyway, we got to play a lot together and we became better friends because of that. Obviously, in real life, we also started meeting more and more, and always the conversation of having or building a business would come up. Not necessarily together. I wanted to have like a film industry and do something with a film community. And he just wanted to build a business and scale it and just do the entrepreneurial part of it, not necessarily knowing in what direction. So as we grew older, talking 19 years old, I pursued my path as a graphic or as a multimedia designer or artist. Did a little bit of web design, Photoshop, 3D visualizations and film. And of course the visual effects part. And he went to another route, which is the business management, accountancy, and stuff like that. Everything that you need in order to run a business. And then when we got older, we actually formed our companies together. I reached out to him to build a company together, because together with our knowledge, we could really build something amazing. And we were also people that could trust each other and rely on each other. And that's also really important when you have that same drive.
Yeah. And so you made that first video in 2008?
Yeah. So back then it was just a channel it was my channel. Arno had nothing to do with it back then. So I just did it for pleasure after my school hours, just sharing the information. But that turned into a business channel later on.
Tell me about Illusion Grid. That's your client services agency. What types of projects do you take on, and how do you manage the agency?
Okay. Well, to be honest, Illusion Grid is fairly new in name of like just the production company itself, Illusion Grid. We've just built it like 3 months ago. But we've actually been doing it for 6 or 7 years already under another name called Tolerated. Tolerated Cinematics. Tolerated was our name for doing productions for companies such as commercial videos, music videos, and also visual effects for feature films and stuff like that. We just decided to form everything in a, we just decided to have a little bit more clarity in what we do, but because before we just did everything a little bit all together, and now we had a little bit more sight over everything, so we started Creator Galaxy, Illusion Grid, and Epic VFX Academy just to differentiate everything a little bit. And Illusion Grid is primarily focused on doing all the post-production for companies. So it really varies a lot in what type of projects we do. It could be commercial videos where we do the visual effects for. It could also be music videos that we edit and where we're going to do the filming and stuff, or promotional videos for events and stuff like that. Currently, what we do most, and that's post-Corona time or COVID time, is a lot of projects that are already filmed overseas, and they're just looking for people to do the post-production. So that's color grading and visual effects most of the time. And so they send over the images or the videos already edited together, and then we will do our magic to them to spice it up a little bit. So that's what we do at Illusion Grid.
That's great. And so how do you find and manage the artists who do the work? How much of the work do you do yourself versus building a team?
Yeah, so for most of the projects, because we don't accept any type of projects, we started a certain budget just because we need to focus on other things, and we want to build Illusion Grid over time. I currently do a lot of the projects myself, and I just need, I ask help around on those projects when needed, but most of them are completely managed by myself.
Cool.
So that's at the moment, yeah.
And so how do you feel about client work in general? What is it that you appreciate about client work versus your own passion projects? And where do you find fulfillment in the client work?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question, actually, because in my opinion, I think at this moment, I have a perfect balance between the two. I get to do my passion projects and I get to do the client work. A lot of people hate client work, and I honestly love it sometimes for two reasons. One, you still get to hear what's trending in the industry, or you're just like doing something that you don't necessarily want to do, but always you'll learn a thing or two, and it just keeps you in the loop of the business and all the updates. You just stay in the business, and that's that. But yeah, it really depends on the client. You have clients that ask you, or that just understand you as an artist, and that give you a lot of freedom, and they just give you some kind of directions that they want to go at. And those projects tend to be amazing. On other cases, you have projects that you really have to follow the client and create something that you're not completely satisfied with, yet it pays the bills. But yeah, just having the balance between the two, I think for me, I can accept those downsides from it because I don't have to do it so often. And at times it just makes me happy that I get to do those things just to stay in the loop, like I said.
When you were building the channel early on and developing these ideas for the business lines you were going to run, at what point did Creator Galaxy come to be, and how soon did it generate enough income that could be your primary source of income?
So Creator Galaxy has actually been in my head since day one, to be honest. And the idea there was just to build a website which is a community for filmmakers to come together and to create to learn together and to find everything that they need in an easier and faster manner. So just a platform where you can find tools for your needs, education for your needs, and basically anything that you need to create epic videos. And that was the original idea. It was built out as Tolerated Cinematics, where we've been selling templates and motion graphics for videos. And that's also something that we've then turned into creatorgalaxy.com and still kept doing the templates and stuff and started adding some visual effects packs and presets. Now, the thing is that we're currently redoing the whole thing because after all these years, we've realized a lot. And our focus has been more and more towards the visual effects aspects of things. And we're going to rebrand that entire website to something that is more interesting to our audience and just more appealing and a lot more interesting. And we just want to create the best platform out there for filmmakers. And so that's something that we're currently doing. It's going to be completely revamped, but I can't talk too much about it yet, as we don't have anything. We don't have much to talk about at this moment. But it's not our main stream of income. Our main stream of income is currently the YouTube channel and the projects. And Creator Galaxy is more of something that we're trying to create an impact in the industry, but that takes time and investments of ourselves.
Is the revenue from the channel coming primarily from sponsors? So you integrate your sponsors really nicely in your videos. And how do you interact with them? So when you're coming up with an idea for a video, will you say, oh, who'd be really good, like your website sponsor? Oh, I can talk about how. Yeah, how does that work? At what point do you involve them and pitch them on the video you're working on?
In cases, it's exactly how you say that. I have a particular ID, and then I would say, oh, this sponsor would be great for this. It would be a perfect fit. So let's reach out to them. Other times, we would have sponsors reaching out to us, and we would be selective in which sponsors we work with and which we don't. We have plenty of sponsors that we obviously just ignore or just pass on. Let's say it like that, because you have so many absurd offers, and we don't want to become a sellout channel. But a lot of sponsors are also very interesting and actually benefit our audience because they can actually use it to improve or just improve their work or make faster results or things like that. So usually we work together with sponsors that we think are a perfect fit for our audience, and we don't want to become a sellout. So we try to also keep the same sponsors in the circle that we enjoy working with.
What kind of absurd offers have you gotten over the years?
We've also had offers to promote casino or like gambling stuff, but also scammy type of websites that offer insane amounts of money. But you're obviously scamming your audience. So not a great idea, I think.
I'd love to hear about Epic VFX Academy.
So the Epic VFX Academy has launched for the first time 2 years ago. And we've actually started this as we wanted to build this into the Epic VFX Academy it is today. But back then it was a course that was more of a masterclass together with me. We wanted to build basically the best education platform where you can learn filmmaking from A to Z. And also where you know what structure to follow, and when you get stuck, where do you get to ask your questions? And if you're really, really stuck, you can actually get to talk with me on a Zoom call together with other people, and also join in a community server where all the students that have already taken the classes are also very active, and you can also ask your questions there. So that's something that we wanted to build, and we wanted to still have enough time to focus on Creator Galaxy and the YouTube channel. And also everyone who joined the class, we wanted to have a great experience. So what we have decided to do is to open our doors for a limited amount of time, allow a selective amount of people to join in, and then close for a few months straight, just to focus on the people that got in and make sure that they get through the class, get the Zoom calls, and get the follow-up in the Discord channel and stuff like that. And it's been amazing so far, because what you tend to see a lot online is you can buy a course, people buy the course, either they get stuck, either they get bored, either they just don't open it at all, or they don't know where to start, or it's a course in a very specific niche of a topic that you want to learn, but you don't really know if that's the topic that you should learn first, or do you want to learn something else first. So that's something that bothered me always. I started with nothing. Back in the time, you didn't even have that. You had YouTube tutorials at times, and for the rest, you had to figure it out on your own. Thank God Andrew Kramer was around back then. For sure, I have checked all his tutorials. But so I thought there was a need for a better platform where you really take the education serious and take them through them step by step, and value each student for who they are. So that's what we have done until now 3 times. We have opened the doors 3 times, and each time the class got bigger, better, and currently we've turned it indeed into the Epic VFX Academy, where we currently count over 250 students, and that's also with just being open 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what is their experience like?
It's a lifetime access, lifetime updates course. So that's also the fun part. Once you buy in, obviously, if you joined the course, you get a limited amount of live Zoom calls, like a month or 3 months, depends on how many Zoom calls we do and how many in what consistency. But apart from that, you get access to the course for always. You also get access to the Discord server where you can discuss with anyone, literally. So I think that's the best part, that you are not obliged to do it within 3 months. Some people buy it now and they only get the time to look at it in the next 3 months. So everyone at its own pace. Some people even did it in a week time, but yeah, they literally did it from morning till evening, and they booked amazing results. Also, the ages in the class are very, very different. We're talking 12 years olds and retired people from 75. So it's a huge variety.
That's awesome. And so as they go, they perform exercises. They apply the skills that they're learning.
Yeah, exactly. So they get through a course starting from zero, and they work their way through. You get exercises, and everything is also in a logic order for what you need to learn first. And you just focus on those parts, and maybe you will need a year to really get up to the level that you want to be. But in just 1 month time, you will increase your skills tremendously. But obviously, it always takes time, and you have to continue learning. And that's also the thing. You stick with that community, with all these people interested in the same topic. So what I also see is our students even collaborated on creating short films together, and they are from all around the world. For example, one guy he actually does live concerts. He's from the UK. He has a guitar with like 24 snares on it. He built it himself. Crazy guy. Amazing music. And he actually wrote a song for a short film that somebody wrote. And then another guy was a project supervisor, brought everyone together, asked what they needed to do. You need to do the 3D, you do the animation, you do the rendering, you do the lighting. And in the end, they had a short film created all by students from the Epic VFX Academy, which is really amazing. It really brings people together from all around the world.
That's awesome. Do all of these, if we call them cohorts, each new group of students that they start at the same time?
The first time we opened, we had our students that entered, and the second time that we opened, they also joined the other students, but they get their own room that they also can talk in. But everyone can communicate with everyone. So you can talk with someone who joined 3 years ago, for example, and you just got in. So that's also the fun thing, because usually the people that are in there for quite a while, they will tend to help the newcomers. And that's why we decided to bring everyone together instead of having classes and rooms for those things. But like the Zoom calls are then for, of course, those people that are just new. But until now, as long as the Zoom call doesn't get cluttered with too many students, we also allow older students to join in to say hi or talk about what they're working on, to inspire the new students, or also to ask their questions, because questions keep coming, you know?
And you're on those Zoom calls?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. What have you found is the point where it becomes too cluttered? How many students or how many people can be on those calls without it becoming chaos?
It really depends, because the more students you have, you will just start changing your tactic a little bit in your Zoom call. Like currently, there is a lot of freedom. But obviously, if you have better preparation and stuff like that, I think 25 would be a maximum amount of students that I would like to have in one Zoom call. And even that, it's already a lot. So I'm not sure if I would do that. It depends the planning and how we would do that. Currently, the maximum that we have is like 15, something like that.
And you'll choose a topic to discuss, or is it more of a AMA and people will just come to you with questions?
It depends. At times, when there is an update on software, or I heard a question from a student that I think will come back more than once, I cover a few things in the beginning of the call. Then I would go over everyone. In the beginning, if it's their first time, obviously a nice introduction so everyone knows who is who. And then where they are at in the class, if they have any questions, if they are working on a project on their own, if they have any questions with that. And then they get to talk of on their projects and what they could potentially use help with. I think the most value in the Zoom calls is not necessarily the questions, although most people use it for the questions. You have the Discord channel for the questions. The Zoom call, in my opinion, should be used for feedback on your work, because that's something that you don't get from anyone. You to show your work to a professional who has built the eye over 10 years to know what is good, what isn't, and to then tell if you change that, if you change that, then your project or your video will be amazing. I think that's the most value in the Zoom calls. That's how I see it.
Yes, you'll review their work
Yeah.
during that call, right at the call, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so valuable. Part of the reason why learning VFX skills like the ones you're teaching on your channel and in this academy are so important is because we're moving so rapidly toward a world that is entirely virtual. And you made a great video about building the metaverse, where you use Unreal and Cinema 4D to create an incredible environment. How central do you think VFX and the ability to use tools like Unreal and Cinema 4D are going to be as we build an entire new world around us?
All I can say is that visual effects as an industry is more trending than ever before. That's for sure. Like the skills that you acquire as a visual effects artist are going to be needed so much more over time. So it's definitely not a wrong career path, if you ask me. It does scare me a little bit where we are going, because the metaverse is really, in my opinion, going to take over a lot, because it's more efficient in a lot of ways. If, for example, our academy, we wanted to have all these students from all around the world, and I'm literally speaking all around the world. We have students in India, we have students in the UK, in Vienna, the US. So try to bring those people all together, then you only have one option, and that's kind of the metaverse. So and also it's a cheap alternative, and they wouldn't need to travel. They can just sit in their office and interact with all these students all around the world, which is pretty insane if you ask me. That's the positive aspect of the whole thing. Obviously this goes wrong when you're neighbors and you're starting to do the same thing all the time. Because there is also a real life to be lived, for sure.
You went from coding originally to editing and visual effects.
Yes.
What is the intersection of coding and VFX going to look like as we design interactive worlds?
It's going to be in sync, I think, because you will have the coders that are going to work simultaneously with the designers, and that's how I see it. So the visual effects artists will be the designers, unless they have coding skills, to create their worlds. And essentially what they are going to do is create games, but the games aren't going to be games, they're going to be recreations of life. And so just more interactive experiences in a digital world, where the visual effects artists will be designing all the stuff, coders will be putting everything together, and well, it's not necessarily so much coding anymore. Also, you have a lot of scripting and a lot of node-based stuff connecting. If you look at Unreal Engine, it's already optimized in a lot of ways that coding isn't always necessary. But yeah, you still need a specialist in that sort of thing.
What visual effects skills, what VFX abilities that you teach do you think are going to be most relevant working for companies trying to build spaces in the metaverse?
A lot of techniques will be very useful. The most important one, or the one that we can think of, is 3D modeling will be a very important role. I've actually been in a conference call regarding the metaverse. I can't say the client, but it was a very big client. And they were saying like one of the biggest things that they will need in the future is assets for the metaverse. So they have an entire world. All they need now is all the objects, like you build the cathedrals and all these buildings, and like traffic stops and stuff like that. All these elements, they need to be there. They need to be created. And obviously you can already find a lot of elements online, but they have to be the right elements for the right platform, stuff like that. And you always need variation. And literally there is no limit here. You can create anything. So modeling and building assets for the metaverse is going to be a very important role, and that's something that you'll learn in the class because we teach modeling as well, because that's apart from the VFX experience. Also texturing, lighting your environment, creating a beautiful environment that has a beautiful sunset. You're literally creating a reality that is completely how you want it. So you can design it how you want it. And that's exactly what a visual effects artist does. So you already created the eye of what makes something look good, what makes something blend together. Composition wise, and things like that are all skills that you build as a visual effects artist that you can just implement immediately into the metaverse. It's not necessarily what tools you know and what things you learn. It's also how you understand the industry and how you understand visual things. Because if I walk in a house, I usually also see better what looks better or what looks worse. Like if you would paint this wall in that color and you would place that there over there, I could become essentially an in-house architect, and to give some style advice, because you just build an eye on what looks good,
Yeah, just said it's a lot more than just the tools you're using. But to stay on that point for a moment, what are the modeling tools modeling, texturing, lighting tools people should be familiarizing themselves with, mastering right now to be prepared for this?
So I've actually recently created a video saying that you should always experiment with as much tools as you can if you have the time to do it. Obviously, learn one tool that you really enjoy working with the best you can. And for me, that's After Effects and Cinema 4D. But Blender is great, Maya is great, and they all have their, and so many others, Houdini, and I can keep going. Unreal Engine is going to be a very important one. Unity is also going to be important. And you also have NVIDIA NVIDIA Creator, which actually renders amazing results in real time, better than Unreal if I'm correct. But they all work together, these tools. They're not like competitors from each other. They all have a skill or thing that they are best at. And what artists are doing is bringing all these tools together, or all these artists that work in these different tools and bringing those things together. For example, you would go and model something in Cinema 4D, then bring it into Unreal Engine to create your world and your environment. If you want to go for the metaverse, you keep it in Unreal. If you want to render it out photoreal, maybe you will bring it into NVIDIA Creator and then texture it over there to make it photoreal. So it can take a lot of steps, but you can also do everything that I just mentioned in Cinema 4D and just render it out over there. So it really depends the project and what you're trying to do.
You've been talking to clients about Metaverse, about their aspirations. What are some interesting examples of ways you think companies who we might not associate with Metaverse today are going to be investing in that?
In my opinion, every single company can benefit from the Metaverse. So it's hard to give you an example, but obviously with COVID, you've seen like a lot of artists struggle. So I imagine that a lot of artists are going to put on my mocap suit that is in the other room, and they're going to make a nice dance, record their song, and then we're going to put that on a digital character that looks a little bit like them, but even cooler, And then we're going to put him on a digital stage where we can literally make him float in space and have floating whales flying over the concert, and you can just make visually stunning experiences with the artist there live performing, but in a digital outfit. And you would actually go ahead and buy tickets with an NFT, for example, to get in, and then you would have your spot reserved to experience the live metaverse of that artist. That's one way to look at it. Academy-wise, my school could also be in the metaverse. So yeah.
Ooh, I love that. For the stage example, we'll need a VFX artist to create that stage, that environment.
Exactly, and the fireworks that are going to be shot in the air is all visual effects. So,
okay, let's talk about education. How can your academy live in the metaverse? What experience? How can that experience differ from the current online video learning?
Well, for the most important part is that you actually bring people live together to interact with each other. So you actually can communicate with each other. You see someone that you're communicating with, and that just would make things more interactive when you have questions or when you want to show something per se. Imagine that you're literally in a city that you enter in a virtual world and you sit on a in a classroom with your laptop in front of you, but and you would actually look over there and you see your buddy from the other side of the world. For example, in our class we actually have two people that get along very good. They're not too far from each other. One is from Vienna and the other is from France. But still, you can go over and grab a beer together, even though they would love to. But they are continuously working together. What if you could actually look at a digital representation of him and work on the projects together on a laptop in the digital world? I know it sounds crazy, but probably that's something that's going to happen. Then we can move into the cinema room in our Metaverse Academy and then look at all the projects from our students on the big screen and review them that way, all in a cozy seat.
How far are we from that? So right now, Rift 2 is sort of the most popular and maybe one of the best experiences. I think HTC is updating the Vive soon, which will be really exciting, and Sony's coming out with a new PSVR. How soon are we from mass adoption where we are actually, it's common to go into Epic VFX Academy and watch something in VR?
It can go so fast. If I look at in the COVID time, it went so fast. Everything digitalized immediately. Like in my country, you still had to go with papers to particular spots, or you had to be on a meeting physically, or otherwise it wouldn't count. And all of a sudden, that changed. Like in a month's time, you could have done anything digitally. Every call that I've done with the bank or whatever, it's been on Zoom, and they're literally across the street. So yeah, it's evolving very quickly at the moment. So yeah, in my opinion, the technology for the metaverse is already ready. We're there already. It's just that the people aren't ready for this yet. But you already have a lot of people that are already living in it. I have some friends that are already living in a metaverse from morning till evening, essentially.
What is that like?
I have no idea. I asked them the same thing. It's not something that I'm waiting for to spend my days in the metaverse, but like for things that are logic, to join the metaverse, to go and to join an event, or to do it as like an extra on top of my life, for sure. That's something that I would really see a benefit for. So how far are we for mass adoption? Maybe another 5 years.
Okay. So if you were, let's say you're just coming out of school and you are set on becoming a visual effects designer, creator of metaverse, of the metaverse, what would you be doing right now to prepare yourself, to make yourself put yourself in the right place when those opportunities are all around us?
So if you want to prepare and you don't know where to start, you can always prepare yourself by learning the tools. Education is something they can never take from you. So even though you don't really know what to do yet, just learning the tools, playing around with them is what I would suggest you to do. For example, we are also not building our metaverse currently because we feel that we have so many other things to focus on before we are worth, or before our time is worth investing into something that we see a lot of potential in. And I definitely see a lot of potential there. So yeah, I would just highly encourage everyone to learn Unreal Engine, a 3D software to model, which you're comfortable with. For free, it's Blender, but if you want to join like a real team in the professional industry, at the moment, that is not a mainstream tool. So Cinema 4D is also very popular here in Europe. Maya is also very important for visual effects. If you're just starting out, play around with Unreal, play a little bit with Blender, and see what other tools you can get your hands on to play around with them.
What editing software do you use? So how do you feel about Premiere versus DaVinci, which is growing more popular? For people focused specifically on editing, where should they be spending their time?
I personally still use, or I've always been using Premiere Pro. Well, I started out with Sony Vegas to learn the ropes. But Premiere is a favorite of mine just because it's working together with the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. But my editor plays around with Adobe Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. The reason is that he is getting a lot of crashes in Premiere. But I cannot share that same experience because I don't have any crashes in Premiere whatsoever. Although I have friends in the industry that also experience weird crashes with the Adobe products. They've even become memes online. But honestly, I don't really have those crashes, so I don't know. Maybe it's my computer. So I really enjoy working with Premiere. I do see DaVinci also as a very worthy software, and I've also used it. And I'm not like the type of guy that hates on, hey, I'm a Premiere user, or hey, it's like iPhone, Samsung kind of. It's the same game. Whatever you're most familiar with, or whatever you enjoy the most, but there is none better than the other.
Is your computer a custom rig? Did you build it yourself, or what specs do you think contribute to the performance you're getting?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking, but it's just a thought process. It's no guarantee. But I'm working with a Dell Precision Tower, so it's a pre-made computer. It's not custom made, but it comes with a pretty solid graphics card, which is currently equal to the RTX 3080, but it's a RTX 6000 Quadro. RTX graphics card. Basically, what it means is that my graphics card is it's literally the same specs as a 380, but the 380 has been designed for gaming and just optimizing and being efficient. But all the hardware in it is not necessarily so solid to work flawlessly. And my card is designed for architects that work with 3D software, and it can just take a lot of scrunching and not crash. That's what I understand. Whereas the 3080 would also be able to take the same load, but then say, oh, I don't know it anymore, I'm going to crash. And where mine will just take more, just keeps crunching the numbers, if that's the right way of saying it. That's what I think. So because they've built it however they want, maybe everything works better together also. Where if you have a custom built computer, maybe some things interfere with each other and therefore give you crashes. I'm not saying that I'm never experiencing crashes, but this computer has given me the least crashes ever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you do all your rendering there locally, or do you ever use cloud rendering or other?
I've tried cloud rendering, but to be honest, for most of our projects, we always have such a quick turnaround that we need to search for render options that are just quickly without, also the efficiency behind it. So we try to always do it in-house, but at times we do hire a cloud service, depends the project. I really enjoy to use Cinema 4D with Redshift because that's insanely fast, and also Octane was actually my favorite before that, but now that Maxon has allowed you to get Redshift and Maxon Cinema 4D in one package, that's actually more interesting. So I do understand that most people will choose that option. And Unreal Engine is also real time. So you just create something and you render it out without waiting. So that's also, I think, the best option if you want render times to be fast.
What's the hardest visual effect you've ever created, and how did you do it?
The hardest? I don't know. I've created so many visual effect shots.
You have. Was there any where it was like surprising, like you didn't think it was going to be this hard, and you didn't know if you could figure it out?
To be honest, I always kind of have that feeling when I try to challenge myself. It's always something that I'm not really sure if I can do it, but I have a feeling that I can do it. So it's always something like that. And so if you look at a YouTube channel, obviously I always make my videos as a proof of concept. So yes, I can do the effect. Obviously, if you put in more time, more budget, the quality of the result will increase 10x. But the time that I will put into it will also increase 10x. So I'd always try to find a solid proof of concept of the visual effect that is acceptable to an audience to get the wow effect from. But I can always essentially do better. So what is the hardest effect that I've done? 3D is usually, when you start doing effects and in 3D, then it usually gets a little bit complex. For example, the Moon Knight was very fun to create recently, where you had cloth dynamics all closing in. If you've seen the Moon Knight, it's like a complete mummification, and it wraps around your head while you're also being in an animation. So that one was very fun to work on. Not necessarily hard, but yeah, tricky. I've definitely had a lot harder shots to work on. I can just name any at the moment. For example, removal shots are really tricky because you have a lot of motion and, for example, someone with a blood bag right here in front of their face, and then they want me to remove the blood bag, but when you get the impact to have the blood splatter, but have the face to show before that. But the face is so organic, it has a lot of movements, a lot of micro movements, that it's really hard to give you a realistic result from doing removals. So anything that has a face involved is, in my opinion, the hardest VFX that you can do.
I believe it. Have you looked at or played with the Unreal
MetaHuman creator?
MetaHuman? Yeah.
So yeah, I've tried to design a human. I've imported it in Unreal, and it gives you so many options. It's insane what quality that you can get just from like a template builder. And I think things like that we're going to see a lot more in the future. Templates, pre-made things that you can modify and have very convincing visual effects with less effort and time. But then again, it's still worth to know all these tools and understand the visual effects industry, because somebody that has never touched it, even though it's just a click of a button, the knowledge behind it will always give you an advantage over the other. It's the same like they say that you don't need photographers anymore. Everyone has a phone. Yeah, a photographer can still take a much nicer photo with a phone than nobody can. So it's going to be a little bit more like that, I think. It's going to become easier and more, accessible.
Yeah. So for many of these VFX tutorials that you create, you are filming, the footage with which you're working. As everyone knows, production can be pure chaos. Have you had any amazing production nightmares?
For sure. We have all, like, any type of problem that you can imagine, we've probably already come across it. What I tend to hear a lot now, like when I talk with people in the industry and they say, oh, I had a nightmare yesterday, this happened to me. And then I literally can only respond like 10x that problem, and that was what I went through. It's nothing what you're going through. I go through that every week, essentially. Losing all your footage, having to recover it, eventually finding it after a few days, things like that, or crashes. In the past, we had so many crashes when you're finished with an entire project and you didn't save because you thought, okay, I'm just going to go with the flow. You've put in a few hours and then boom, everything is gone. Things like that happen.
Tell me a story about that.
The moments that I hate the most are actually the moments for our own YouTube channel. And that's when I set up my camera and I didn't have anyone back in the time to autofocus, to focus manually on myself. So, and the autofocus of my camera isn't perfect. So it always seeks, even though I stand in the same position. So I have to manually focus it and then stand in front of the camera. So what I used to do is put my chair, put my guitar or something to fake my body, and then focus on that and then go and sit there. The thing is that if my eyes are here and even 10 centimeters could like shift my focus. And so oftentimes I didn't focus good enough and I recorded a 30-minute video where, then the first time that I recorded it, I was out of focus. So I redo everything. I build the entire setup again. I go and sit there again, make sure that the focus is perfect. And then I recorded again, and then a microphone died, a battery died, for example, like that. So I had things or moments that I had to record a video 4 times in a row. And it's not like it wasn't well prepared. It's just things happen along the way that there's so many things to check that, once in a while you forget a thing. And if you go and prepare it every single time, you lose more time in the end. So yeah, it's a little bit of, it's a lucky game, I guess. No, but as the time got by, we do it so many times now. These things don't occur so much anymore. It's especially in the beginning, that's normal.
How have you built your team that helps you with production and post? How do you find these people?
So I've never really found the people that I needed. So that's why I taught myself to do everything from A to Z. So if I need, I can. And then Arnaud has nothing to do with the creative aspect. He can just give feedback because he've also seen like 7 years in a row all the visual effects. So he understands what needs to be done better, but he can do it, for example, his own. So he can give a lot of feedback, which is very useful. And then we were still in need for someone to help me a little bit, because I was doing all the visual effects, then recording the tutorial, editing the tutorial, promoting the tutorial, sharing on social media, then publishing, thumbnail, everything. The website, designed the entire website, created all the products for that website. So everything was me back in the time. And until 2 years ago, we now have a video editor working for us. He's also the project manager and helps me a lot with those things. And he edits now all of the YouTube videos. So he helps me with that. But the projects are usually, they fall on me and Enzoe. He does editing and I do visual effects. And then we also work with some freelancers that we come along to trust over the years, and we work with them depending on the project.
People like the editor who you hired to be noticed by people like you.
So your question was, how did we find them? We actually work with interns every year, and then we have a few interns that come over. They work for free, and we educate them in whatever they want to get stronger in. And so Enzoe was one of the interns that came to work with us for a month and a half. And we really enjoyed what we saw. He was someone that he taught with us. So he had also his own suggestions. He dared to speak against us or like share his own ideas. And also what he was making was really good back in the time. Obviously, he still needed some experience, but yeah, that's something that you can build. You can already see that the person was, he was a right fit for our team. So that's why we decided to hire him once his internship was over. How can you be noticed is by doing internships or making sure that you create amazing works on your socials and share them with your friends. Talk about it. Show people what you can do. Don't talk about what you can do.
That's great. Where will you take your channel in the coming years?
Yeah, we're definitely going for over 1 million. Where are we taking it? We want to become a platform where we can also share like edutainment regarding visual effects, but we also enjoy creating the content. So creating sketches with the visual effects in there and creating like mini short films, let's say, and then we would go on and talk how we created that entire short film, for example, and really build it into a filmmaking channel, but like always bigger and better and having bigger budgets to create crazier stuff. That's where I want to take it. Yeah, so just bigger and better.
Will you do more narrative shorts like Full Control?
Yeah, I want to do a lot more shorts. The Full Control was actually a short that we've done in just 48 hours time. So that's something that I want to throw in there, because every time when I finish something, I'm not satisfied with it anymore. That's who I am. So I cannot say, if you would ask me, what is your most favorite shot that you've ever done? I will answer, I don't have anything that I enjoy. I didn't create anything until this date that I can be 100% proud of. I'm always a little bit proud of certain things, but nothing in that I can say, this is it. So as long as that's not there, I have to keep going, I think.
Yeah, that's great. You've worked on feature films like Snow Queen. Will you produce your own feature films down the road?
It's not that it didn't pop up in my head. It depends on if feature film is the right fit for that moment in my life. Maybe I want to make a feature. Maybe I want to make a series. But definitely I want to do something.
Yeah.
That is going to be from our own, for sure.
Oh, that's great. I'd love to ask you a little bit more about, talk more about the metaverse. I don't know if I'm asking the right questions to really dig in there, but I think you have such an interesting perspective on how VFX is going to fuel that building that new form of existence.
Maybe a fun thing to add is that we've actually been in the business 6 years ago, the Metaverse business. We've already created some sort of Metaverse in the emo section, but we had a client that was building apartment blocks or like little houses, tiny homes in not in India but in Sri Lanka, and so they had all these houses that were like modular, so you can essentially build one, or you had to build 5, and if you then combine everything, you can build so many different variations from it. And so what they wanted is to have a VR experience where you walk into a room, and where you can change your sofa's color, where you really feel at home. So when you entered, it was also during the Champions League. The Champions League was playing on the TV. You had the remote lying on the table. You could actually pick up the remote and turn off the TV, turn up the volume, turn down, then walk into the kitchen. You would see how the stove works. You can turn it on, turn it off. You can look at the white kitchen and change it to a black kitchen, to a wooden kitchen, things like that. Open all the doors. You could have done that. And we actually built that room out in a physical, that was the plan, to build it in a physical environment. So when you went to sit in the sofa in the metaverse, you would be sitting on something. It wouldn't look like that sofa, but you would get the experience like you're really in that environment. And so like that, they could have clients in Sri Lanka go to the shop, put on the metaverse, build their house however they want, and then they could actually go ahead and build that house. So that's something that we've done, and yeah, that's 6 years ago or something.
That's awesome. How did it go? Did they sell a lot of houses with it?
I don't know. It's a project that we've started up with them. In the end, we didn't continue the project because we also had our own focus, and they expected way too much time for. But we've done the entire process of like the proof of concept, and then they continued their production. So we have no updates whatsoever. What happened? I should ask if I wanted to know.
And so how else do you think visual effects might shape the metaverse?
How else will it shape? It will entirely shape it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, like how might it change our day to day? So
Okay.
those friends who are plugging in the morning and spending their entire day in there, what do you imagine they could be doing?
Oh, okay. So we actually have also someone in our academy. He is a professional in the metaverse, and he knows people that go to the club. And you actually have a guy that is at the door who is the security guy, because there are people making trouble in the metaverse bars, so they have to be thrown out. So you have a security guy, you have a secretary to hire all the tickets and to make sure everything is going how it should go. You can even if you want to go take it crazy, you can even hire lap dances. It's going that far, so it's a different world that. But yeah, no, you can order your drink, listen to some music. For example, my friend is a DJ, and maybe you want to present your work to an audience that is also from around the world. So you've built an audience on your social media, and now you want to see them in real life, but it's still a little bit harder to do something like that than to just jump into a nice environment in the metaverse and meet up with all your biggest fans and throw them some nice music. I know that I've been talking a lot about parties, but work and having an entire work environment where you work together is also going to be very important, because more and more you see people that are traveling the world and working digitally as a digital nomad. And I think we will only see more and more and more of that. And so people will start meeting up in the metaverse to have a little bit of interaction, but it's just because it's not possible to physically meet. If you have the possibility to physically meet, I think that will always stay like that, or at least I hope so. But yeah, things like that. Education. Also, if you want to entertain yourself, like watching a movie. I remember when I had my Samsung with the VR headset, you could actually be in a cinema room, and you would see a big screen. It's crazy. I felt like I was at the movies, and I was just with my phone in front of my eyes. So yeah, things like that. Just being able to have a bigger room than you're actually in. If you want to be in the movies and you only have an apartment, put on the VR
Yeah.
headset.
So you're talking right now about watching a film,
Yeah.
being in a movie theater in VR. Um, I don't know how 360 cameras. There's not a lot of editing you can do. You can just do jumps in time. Where will today's video editor, be needed in that world of immersive 360 environments?
So if you're going to talk about like 360 video, you will always need editors, and editing will be different. You won't have these shortcut paste videos. But what I would see is, if you want to teach geography, that would be a great thing to use 360 cameras of the location and then show them that location and just show it like without cutting, but then the editor would have to search all these files and then make sure that you can click in between them and have a more interactive experience instead of a pre-cut experience. So the editor will just make a system where you can edit yourself in the metaverse. So now I want to be in this location and see how that was back in the time. Okay, that's amazing. Now I'm going over to New York. Boom, another button, and now you're in New York back in the 1950s. Okay, New York 1950s looks like this. Obviously, I'm just things like that. I think.
I imagine there's always going to be a need for 2D cinematic storytelling.
For sure. That's why in the cinema, in the metaverse, I'm talking about just a big screen. It just feels like a big screen, but it's still 2D.
Yeah. How do you imagine the workflow of a VFX artist or an editor will change within working within the metaverse when we're not confined to just using a monitor and a mouse?
So creating worlds will become indeed very interactive. I think you will be sculpting in front of you and you can walk around it. I've actually done something like that a few years ago where you can actually paint and then run around and paint. You're really standing in front of the object you're creating. And I think it will just become more enjoyable to be a VFX artist because you're really interacting with all the things instead of sitting on a computer with your keyboard. And yeah, you will really sculpt it in front of you. And I look forward to that, to try it out for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Well, Ignace, this was awesome. Thank you very much for giving us this time.
Pleasure.
And shedding light on where we're going with visual effects and the metaverse.
It's been a true pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Can I just ask you, what can we look forward to? Can you give me any previews of projects you're working on right now?
Some previews that we're currently working on. All I can say is that I currently feel like I've been preparing in the last 2 years for so much stuff, and a new level is just unlocked. So the visual effects that you're going to see on our channel now are going to be crazier and bigger than ever. I'm super excited about the future, but I can't say anything in particular, just that we're doing so much exciting stuff in the industry and we're not planning on stopping yet.
I can't wait. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.